Ukraine European rights body sign accord for war tribunal. And dozens of Israeli illegal settlers attack West Bank town. Good afternoon and salam Malaysia Madani. I'm Brendan Lepol. Deputy Prime Minister Datuk Seri Fadillah Yusof began his official working visit in Russia with a bilateral meeting with his counterpart Alexei Overchuk yesterday. Datuk Seri Fadillah, who is also the Minister of Energy Transition and Water Transformation, was accompanied by Deputy Foreign Minister Datuk Muhammad Alamin and Malaysia's Ambassador to Russia, Datuk Cheong Lun Lai. The bilateral meeting addressed various topics, including the current state of bilateral trade and the exploration of new cooperation opportunities, especially in the areas of energy, technology, transfer, education and training. The bilateral meeting will also be attended by Russia's Deputy Minister of Energy and Deputy Minister of Economic Development. Deputy Prime Minister working visit to Russia is a continuation of Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim's official visit to Russia on May this year, aimed at deepening, enhancing, exploring new cooperation between the two countries. Diplomatic relations between Malaysia and Russia have been established since 1967.
So this is the iconic buildings in Malaysia.
NATO leaders are set to formally approve a massive hike in defence spending, aimed at financing the alliance's largest rearmament program since the Cold War, as allies ready for the possibility of Russian attack on NATO territory. NATO Secretary-General Mark Rutte said this is a quantum leap that is ambitious, historic and fundamental to securing future. On the second and final day of the meeting in the Dutch city, NATO allies are expected to commit to spending 5% of gross domestic product on defence and related expenses by 2035, following persistent pressure from US President Donald Trump to increase their defence budgets. So far, NATO allies have been obliged to spend at least 2% of their economic output on defence, a goal agreed to in 2014 and only set to be achieved by all member states this year. Under the new pledge, at least 3.5% of GDP must go to core military expenditure, with an additional 1.5% earmarked for related expenses, including dual-use infrastructure for military purposes. The additional funds are to provide for a huge expansion of deterrence and defense capacities in the coming years, as Russia's relentless assault on Ukraine highlights the need for stronger protection in the eyes of the transatlantic alliance.
Trillions more for our common defense.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on Wednesday signed an accord with pan-European rights body, the Council of Europe, for establishing a special tribunal to try top officials responsible for Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The court would prosecute the crime of aggression in the invasion, which Russia launched in February 2022, and could, in theory, try top figures up to President Vladimir Putin.
Tribunal for the crime of aggression.
Council of Europe's Secretary-General Alain Berset said the next step to set up the tribunal would be an enlarged agreement to allow the widest possible number of countries to join, to support and to help manage the tribunal. It has not yet been decided where the tribunal would be based. This is the first time such a tribunal has been set up under the aegis of the Council of Europe, the continent's top rights body. The 46-member Council of Europe is not part of the EU, and members include key non-EU European states such as Turkey, the UK and Ukraine. Russia was expelled in the wake of its invasion of Ukraine. The International Criminal Court in The Hague has already issued arrest warrants for Putin and 4 of his top commanders. However, the court does not have the jurisdiction to prosecute Russia for the more fundamental decision to launch the invasion. United States President Donald Trump said that Israel and Iran were tired, but the conflict between the two countries could start again. Speaking at a press conference at the end of a NATO summit in the Netherlands, Trump said his administration plans to have talks with Iran next week after failed negotiations between the two nations prompted a US attack on Iran's nuclear facilities.
And can it start again? I guess someday it can. It could maybe start soon. Like, Iran has a huge advantage. They have great oil, and they can do things. I don't see them getting back involved in the nuclear business anymore. I think they've had it. They've been at it for 20 years, and I don't see that happening either. Now, if it does, we're always there. It won't be me. It'll be somebody else, but we're there. We'll have to do something about it.
NATO leaders backed the big increase in defense spending that Trump had demanded and restated their commitment to defend each other from attack. Trump also added he would consider supplying Ukraine with more of the Patriot air defense missiles Kyiv relies on to defend itself from mounting Russian strikes. After meeting his Ukrainian counterpart on Wednesday, he added he plans to speak to Russian President Vladimir Putin to see if an end to the conflict is possible. The Iranian government says the internet ban imposed during the war with Israel has been lifted. The communications minister, Sattar Hashemi, said the internet access has now returned to normal. The vast majority of the population was almost completely cut off from foreign websites for almost a week, including many messaging services. People in Tehran reported that they could access foreign internet content again. However, there are still some restrictions, with pages loading slowly or not at all. The security authorities officially justified the measure on the grounds of military necessity to protect against attacks by Israel. Many people in the country who want to be freely informed did not believe this explanation, accusing the government of wanting to censor reports on the war. Meanwhile, Iran reopened its airspace over the country's east following a ceasefire with Israel that ended 12 days of fighting. Iran had closed its skies since 13 June after Israel launched a major bombing campaign that prompted Iran to retaliate with waves of missile strikes. A ceasefire between the two came into effect on Tuesday. The Transport Ministry spokesman Majid Akawan said the airspace over the eastern half of the country has been reopened to international overflights as well as domestic and international flights solely with origin or destination in airports located in eastern Iran. He added that Mashhad airport, which Israel said it had struck during the war, was among the airports that reopened. Other reopened airports include Chabahar, Zaheran, and Jask. Domestic and international flights in other parts of Iran, including the capital Tehran, are not permitted until further notice. US President Donald Trump expressed his support for Benjamin Netanyahu, saying his graft trial should be cancelled. In a post on his social media Truth Social account, Trump remarked that the trial was a witch hunt. Trump added that the trial should be cancelled immediately or a pardon given to Netanyahu. Israeli media have reported that cross-examination of Netanyahu began on 3rd June in a Tel Aviv court and was expected to take about a year to complete. Netanyahu's trial has been delayed many times since it began in May 2020, with the Israeli leader using the war in Gaza and later conflict in Lebanon as the reasons for postponements. In the first case, Netanyahu and his wife Sarah are accused of accepting more than $260,000 worth of luxury goods, such as cigars, jewelry, and champagne, from billionaires in exchange for political favors. Two other cases alleged that Netanyahu attempted to negotiate more favorable coverage in two Israeli media outlets. Dozens of Israeli settlers attacked a Palestinian West Bank town on Wednesday, sparking a confrontation ended with Israeli forces killing 3 Palestinians. The Palestinian Health Ministry said 3 Palestinians were killed and 7 wounded in the violence in Kafar Malik, northeast of Ramallah. Dozens of Israelis set fire to property, and military and police forces were dispatched to the scene after receiving a report of ensuing violence that included an exchange of stone throwing. The military statement said several Palestinians opened fire and hurled rocks at the forces, who returned the fire, and 5 Israeli suspects were arrested. Settlement activity in the West Bank has accelerated sharply since the outbreak of the Israel-Hamas war in Gaza. Israel has also stepped up military operations against Hamas in the West Bank, increasing the presence of its army in the region, and settler attacks on Palestinian residents have also increased.
Tutup tingkap dan pintu untuk kekal dingin dan lebih jimat.
Coming up next, gunmen killed 11 people and injured at least 20 during religious festival in central Mexico. Stay with us. And here's the full story. Gunmen killed 11 people and injured at least 20 in an attack during a religious festival in a central Mexican city plagued by gang-related violence. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum said it is an appalling multiple homicide and an investigation is being carried out. Security authorities said in a statement that they have launched an operation to find those responsible for the attack. The shooting happened during a religious celebration for St. John's Day. The Attorney General's office confirmed the attack, and the local government condemned the violence and expressed its solidarity with the victims, relatives and other citizens affected by this cowardly act. Guanajuato State Governor Libia Denis condemned the bloodshed and expressed solidarity and condolences to the victims and their families. Guanajuato is a thriving industrial hub and home to several popular tourist destinations, but is also Mexico's deadliest state due to gang turf wars, according to official homicide statistics. Criminal violence, most of it linked to drug trafficking, has claimed around 480,000 lives in Mexico since 2006 and left more than 120,000 people missing. A man who killed a 14-year-old boy in London during a rampage with a sword was found guilty of murder on Wednesday. Marcus Arduini Monzo, 37, nearly decapitated schoolboy Daniel Anjurin during a 20-minute series of attacks in Hainault, East London in April last year, in which he also assaulted several other people, including police officers. Prosecutors said Monzo killed and skinned his cat before driving his van at a pedestrian and slicing him with the sword, murdering Daniel and then trying to murder a police officer. He then broke into a house and attacked a sleeping couple in bed before leaving, finally wounding a second police officer before his arrest. Monzo said he did not remember having carried out the attacks. His lawyers argued he should not be found guilty of murder as he was suffering from cannabis-induced psychosis. Prosecutor Tom Little, however, argued that self-induced intoxication did not provide a defense to the charge of murder. Monzo was convicted of Daniel's murder by a jury. He was also convicted of other charges, including 3 counts of attempted murder, for which there is no partial defense of diminished responsibility. A 27-year-old Brazilian female climber has died after falling into a 600-meter deep ravine while climbing Mount Rinjani on Indonesia's Lombok Island. Indonesia's search and rescue agency SAR reported that the individual fell into the ravine last Saturday. However, due to extreme weather and the remote location, the evacuation took longer than expected. She was found dead on Tuesday when the evacuation team finally reached her location. According to the agency, the victim climbed Mount Rinjani with 6 of her friends and a local guide. They chose the Sembalun route and began their ascent early on Saturday. Upon reaching the Cemara Nunggal point, the victim fell exhausted and was asked by the guide to rest. The others then continued the journey to the summit, leaving her alone at the rest point. Since she did not catch up with the group, The guide decided to return to the last resting point where she had been. However, she was nowhere to be found, and the group suspected she had fallen and immediately contacted the authorities for assistance. Doctors at Garahan Pediatric Hospital in Buenos Aires protested on Wednesday against government policies they claim are leading to underfunding and inadequate salaries. The protesters responded to Manuel Adorni, the presidential spokesperson, who defended the government's stance, asserting that the issue lies with public employees who draw salaries without performing duties. According to one of the protesters, the government does not approve salary increases for employees and residents. The staff have appointments for 42 hours a week, an extended schedule that doesn't allow them to work elsewhere. Residents earn very little, as do hospital employees, and they have been demanding salary adjustments for a while, but according to protesters, the government offers no response. They also said they have refuted the figures given by Adorni and President Javier Milei with the 2024 annual hospital yearbook. 70% of the staff in the hospital perform care duties, which includes doctors, nurses, technicians, orderlies, all focusing on patient care. Then there's 20% in logistics, including some administrative roles, and there is no one surplus. Chilean authorities dismantled an extensive money laundering operations linked to the notorious Tren de Arahua criminal organization, resulting in 52 arrests and the seizure of a network that moved over $13 million in illicit funds. The arrests took place across multiple regions, including Santiago, Tarapacá, Antofagasta, Atacama, Valparaiso, O'Higgins, and Bibbio, with most of those detained being foreign nationals. The laundering operation employed various methods to clean money derived from serious crimes, including contract killings, kidnapping, extortion, human trafficking, and drug trafficking. Authorities revealed the network utilized fake companies, fraudulent bank accounts, and cryptocurrency transactions to move funds internationally. The laundered money was transferred out of Chile, primarily through cryptocurrency channels to multiple countries, including Venezuela, Colombia, the United States, and others in the South American region. Tren de Arahua, which originated in a Venezuelan prison, has expanded its criminal operations across South America in recent years, establishing networks in Colombia, Peru, Bolivia, and Chile. Water cannons and tear gas were used by police to disperse anti-government protests in Nairobi, Kenya. Thousands of Kenyans took to the streets to commemorate last year's demonstrations in which more than 60 people died. Demonstrators were observed constructing barricades on the roadway while displaying banners shaped like hearts, roses and white crosses, in addition to Kenyan flags. Shots were heard off-screen and police used tear gas to attempt to disperse demonstrators. An official with a multi-agency emergency response team said 8 protesters were killed and at least 400 injured, with 83 in serious condition following protests across Kenya. Over 100 people were injured and hospitalized, most with bullet wounds. A hospital source in Matu told that 2 people had died from gunshot wounds there. A security guard had been shot amid the protests at its Nairobi headquarters in unclear circumstances.
Menggosok baju sekaligus boleh menjimatkan elektrik.
And welcome back. A solitary first-half goal by Daniel Svensson gave Borussia Dortmund a 1-0 win against Ulsan Hyundai on Wednesday as the Germans secured a place in the last 16 of the Club World Cup. Dortmund's second straight victory by a 1-goal margin means Dortmund qualify for the last 16 as winners of Group F. In another action, Fluminense completed a full Brazilian contingent in the Club World Cup round of 16 after a goalless draw with Mamelodi Sundowns secured their progression from Group F. Despite being on the back foot for much of the match at Miami's Hard Rock Stadium, Fluminense advanced after finishing second in the group with 5 points, 2 behind group winners Borussia Dortmund. Cristiano Ronaldo is set to extend his stay in Saudi Arabia with Al Nassr, according to media reports on Wednesday. The 5-time Ballon d'Or winner is close to agreeing terms on a contract which would see him remain in Riyadh until 2026. Ronaldo's current deal expires on 30th June. Despite failing to win any major silverware since joining Al Nassr in January 2023, the Portuguese skipper has scored 99 goals in 111 appearances and won the Saudi Pro League's Golden Boot the past 2 seasons. Ronaldo also helped Portugal to their second UEFA Nations League title earlier this month when they defeated Spain in the final on penalties. Al Nassr announced the departure of head coach Stefano Pioli on Tuesday after just 1 season in Saudi Arabia, while Ronaldo reportedly turned down offers to join a club participating in this summer's Club World Cup. Kylian Mbappe has been left out of the Real Madrid squad for Thursday's final Club World Cup group game against Red Bull Salzburg, despite returning to training following illness. The French superstar did not feature in the last of 23 players named by coach Xabi Alonso and published by the club for the match. Mbappe had returned to training on Wednesday after missing Real's first 2 matches at the tournament in the United States due to illness. He was taken to hospital last Thursday for tests and treatment after suffering gastroenteritis before later being released. He played no part in Real's opening game, a 1-1 draw with Saudi side Al Hilal in Miami, or the 3-1 defeat of Mexico's Pachuca at the weekend. Alonso did indicate after the latter game that Mbappe was on the mend. Mbappe has scored 43 goals in 56 appearances since joining Madrid from Paris Saint-Germain last year. His last game was for France in a 2-0 win away to Germany in the UEFA Nations League on 8 June.
Super GT 2025 Series dengan 8 siaran langsung perlumbaan. Pusingan 1, 13 April dibawakan dari Litar Okayama International Circuit. Pusingan 2, 4 Mei dibawakan dari Litar Fuji Speedway. Pusingan 3, 28 Jun dibawakan dari Litar Sepang. Pusingan 4, 3 Ogos. Pusingan 5, 24 Ogos dibawakan dari Litar Fuji Speedway. Pusingan 6, 21 September dibawakan dari Litar Sportsland Sugo. Pusingan 7, 19 Oktober dibawakan dari Litar Autopolis. Dan pusingan 8, 2 November dibawakan dari Litar Mobility Resort Montegi di saluran Sukan RTM. Juga secara penstreaman langsung di RTM Click. Sebuah program bual bicara santai berkaitan sukan.
Masih lagi bersama dengan kami berdua, saya Q Amril dan juga Jit Zulkifli akan bersama dengan anda untuk perbincangan komprehensif dalam planet sukan.
Mengupas topik-topik hangat dan isu-isu sukan.
Pasukan sokongan dia. Satu fenomena baru. Suntikan semangat kemudahan sukan yang khusus.
Bersama atlet-atlet dan penggiat sukan negara. Planet Sukan. Setiap Jumaat 10.30 malam di TV1 dan saluran sukan RTM. Juga penstreaman langsung di RTM Click.
And we conclude World Today in our top story. Ukraine-Europe signed accord setting up special tribunal to try party responsible for Russian invasion on Ukraine. Do join us this evening at 8:30 p.m. for more on TV1 and saluran Berita RTM. You can also stream us live on RTM Click's website or mobile application. Now, ending the bulletin with a clip of a drone used to transport crucial mountaineering equipment up Mount Everest and then transport trash back down the mountain. Incredible scene. Till then, I'm Brenda Lepal, Malaysia MADANI, Rakyat Disantuni. Goodbye for now. Take care.